Former special counsel Jack Smith is reportedly ready to go on a counterattack as the Trump administration continues to target Smith and the FBI agents who worked on his team. The New York Times is reporting that Smith has, quote, told people in his orbit that he welcomes the opportunity to present the public case against Mr. Trump, denied to him by the Supreme Court decision asserting broad presidential immunity from prosecution and adverse rulings from a Trump-appointed judge on the federal bench in Florida. The paper continues that in two recent interviews, Smith has made it unmistakably clear that he will not only defend himself, but take a hammer to Mr. Trump's exaggerated or false claims about his work as special counsel. Joining us now, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, Florida, Dave Aronberg. Dave, thanks for joining us. So let's talk about this. You know, as discussed, there was a real thought that these legal cases would have been Donald Trump's doom in his presidential campaign. That was not the case. Only one actually got to trial, the matter in New York that most around Trump believe actually helped him win. The other cases were delayed and then scuttled altogether, in part by the Supreme Court ruling and then Trump's election. So tell us what you make of Smith's threat here, if you will, to go to try this case in public, a case he seems very confident of winning.
Yeah, Jonathan, Jack Smith sees what's happening, and he knows that he would be the biggest trophy for Donald Trump's wall of retribution. But be careful what you wish for, because Jack Smith is like that quiet kid at school who unleashes a fury of haymakers when a bully tries to take his lunch money. He's the bear that we're all taught not to poke. Now his name is being dragged through the mud, so Smith is fighting back, and he's done multiple speaking events already. He has asked Congress to let him speak in public. Now, Congress, Trump's allies like James Comer, want Smith to go before the committee, but behind closed doors, Smith is saying, nope, I want to do it in front of the TV cameras. He wants everyone to see the evidence that he's allowed to reveal under the law. Trump and his allies, I think, learned the wrong lesson from Robert Mueller's testimony. Remember, after Mueller issued his report, Mueller appeared before congressional leaders, and he was hesitant. He was tight-lipped. He clearly had lost a step, and Trump delighted in Mueller's uneven performance. Jack Smith, though, by contrast, has been poked enough, and he's ready for a fight. So no matter if it's in a courtroom or a committee room, I don't understand why Trump and his allies would want to hand Smith a podium and an open mic when he's sitting on potentially very damaging information about Trump's conduct. So they believe they're setting a trap.
But wait a second. It's not potentially damaging. And that it's damaging. I mean, that's what doesn't make any sense about this. As long as they can keep just saying, witch hunt and make all these general statements about this investigation, especially the documents case, then you don't have the person that worked for Donald Trump, the IT person, who I think went to the government and wanted to talk about the request that the cameras get scuttled. You don't have reports about the possibility of flooding those files from a maintenance. You have all of these people that at least was reported went to Smith and were willing to testify against Donald Trump. All of that pours out in the open. I mean, it would seem to me he would much rather, and Republicans would much rather, just sort of have these attacks generally being out there instead of handing the microphone over to Jack Smith. It's one thing I learned early in Congress. Newt Gingrich made a terrible mistake one time where there were 12 of us that shut down basically the House. And he handed the microphone over to us and he said, I want you to explain what you did. And about an hour and a half later, I said, note to self, never turn the microphone over to your opponents. Because we skewered him. We defended ourselves. And he wasn't speaker a couple of years later. We got the same thing here. Why would Donald Trump want to hand Jack Smith a microphone and say, now tell everybody all the evidence you had on me in a very real documents case?
Joe, it's a fair point. They believe they're setting a trap here, but instead they're walking into one. And as far as whether it's damaging or potentially damaging, the reason why I make that distinction is that we've seen things we thought were damaging to Trump in the past, and it's a 24-hour news cycle and it goes away. So will it be damaging to Trump and the Republican Party? We don't know. Part of the reason why I hesitate is that Judge Cannon has put a lid on what Jack Smith can say. Judge Cannon has sealed the report that contains a lot of this new information when it comes to the Mar-a-Lago documents case. And the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals just yesterday said, you got to stop sitting on this. You got to rule on this, and gave Judge Cannon another 60 days. So it's very possible that Jack Smith goes before Congress not able to talk about the material that could be so damaging in that report. We shall see.
So wait, let's get this straight. So they want Jack Smith to talk about his investigation, but Eileen Cannon is once again doing Donald Trump's bidding. And there you have the 11th Circuit, one of the most conservative circuits in America, once again saying to Eileen Cannon, come on, you can't do this.
Right. She's been reprimanded a number of times.
By the 11th Circuit.
By the 11th Circuit. And let's do recall, though, that it was, as reported in Carol Lenig's, our colleague's new book, the idea that some of Smith's deputies wanted to try these cases in Washington. He said, no, let's do in Florida. It was a 1 in 6 chance to get Cannon. That's who they got. And, of course, she has ruled for Trump consistently. Former state attorney for Palm Beach County, Dave Aronberg. Dave, thank you.
And Dave, thanks so much. Dave has a column in our newsletter.
We will be sure to read that.
The tea about this. We appreciate it.
The tea spilled by Morning Joe.
I know. You got to say that, I guess.
The lawyer was in my ear.
Okay,
It'll be out
very good.
early this afternoon.